Today on Lockdown Red Wings, Detroit has their second overtime win in as many games. Moritz Seider is about to surpass the perfect human in this category, and Michael Rasmussen continues to stay hot. And then we finish off the episode and the week by previewing the New York Islanders game. Nailed it!
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Lockdown Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I am a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast. I just did the episode on the resource officer funding that the state passed, $25 million for 195 police officers in public schools. Will it make students safe? So check that out. Scotty is a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, as well as the host of Locked On Tigers. And Scotty, it took me a good 6 tries to nail that cold open, but it was worth it because this is going to be a banger of an episode. This was, and I said it during the now, I'm trying to collect my thoughts because I have a habit of getting overly excited and then speaking too fast and slurring my words and stuttering. So I'm trying to take a deep breath. I'm very excited, but second overtime win in as many games. And I got to say, and again, you're playing Montreal Canadiens, one of the worst teams in the league, and they are extraordinarily beat up with so many injuries. But you dominated them in the advanced analytics department, hardcore, and you won. It shouldn't have been as close as it was, and we'll talk about that because that one issue keeps persisting as to why it was so close. But you won the game, and you dominated all 60 minutes of this hockey game in every category. I'm really happy with this win.
I completely agree. This is definitely one of those games where you, at the end, you're obviously you're always happy with a win, and no one's going to be too pessimistic about a win, but you definitely wish it was a little bit easier. Like that, this was certainly like you outplayed them. Like the Red Wings flat out outplayed the Canadiens for 60, or at least dang close to 60, and overtime was pretty back and forth, to be honest. And Husso had to kind of have a big moment there at the end as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But in regulation, you pretty comfortably outplayed them, and yet it still went into overtime, which is a little frustrating. But 2 points is 2 points, and in a game, again, you outplayed them pretty much throughout the entire thing, and you get a win. We'll take it.
Yeah, there were issues in the game, and it's the same issue that persists, and we'll talk about that. But first, let's just kind of enjoy this win for what it is. I mean, you just won 2 back-to-back OT thrillers, and a lot of players played really well. And I think first and foremost, you got to give credit to Michael Rasmussen. Well, actually, first and foremost, Kai Seider had a really great game. Big game from Papa Seider.
First and foremost, yeah.
The dad strip's going on right now, and he is the hype man for the fathers and the mentors right now. They kept going back to him, and he was heckling Canadiens fans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was.
So first star is Moritz Seider's dad, without a doubt. But second star is Michael Rasmussen, who continues to stay hot. Scotty, I know we talked about Michael Rasmussen a little bit in the last episode, but I mean, hell, when you keep playing as well as Michael Rasmussen has, you got to keep talking about him, right? He had a goal and an assist. He led the team, scored a goal on the Red Wings' first shot, another snipe from the almost exact same spot he got his last goal. High slot, he's been pretty lethal with his releases. I don't know if it's how deceptive it is, but he's been beating goalies right from that high slot area each and every time. He made a nice little move to create some space. And then, of course, in overtime, it was a nice little tap feed by Seider, but everything up until that goal, Rasmussen is responsible for, man. He has been so great. He made a beautiful move earlier in the game as well. It's just every facet of his game has come so far along. I'm in love with what he has become.
I completely agree. And we've talked about him quite a lot lately just because of the development arc that his career really has taken, not even just this season, but this season, if you're talking about positive storylines and positives to come out of this year, Rasmussen is up there in that conversation with one of the biggest positives that you can take out of the year. The development that he's seen, and where, I mean, least we forget at the beginning of last season, I mean, people were talking about Rasmussen not even being an NHL caliber player like ever. And now we're talking about him being even if it is a legitimate, fixture in the bottom six, even if it is just in the bottom six, that's still to kind of rejuvenate a fan base's opinion of you like that in just about a year and a half, or I mean, really even a season, if it just last year did it for you. So cool to see him continue to take strides, and yeah, it really keeps coming back to the way that he has been able to utilize his size, and that's something that it just took him a while to get acclimated to at the NHL level, and now we're at a point where he seems to be a lot more comfortable out on the ice, and that alone has done a lot.
So I don't mean to derail a conversation. We will get back to Moritz Seider, but the Red Wings just posted on Twitter their 3 stars of the game. I'll look at the 3rd star and read the caption underneath.
No one can read the caption.
Yeah, you
It
can.
just says Moritz Seider and 3 stars. No one can read that.
It says Moritz and K Seider.
Oh, okay. I can't see the K at all. It just
Really?
it
It was
was because of the glare. You're like the light, like the glare.
Oh, well, Moritz and K Seider
Regardless, it
the 3rd
deserved.
star.
K Seider's the man. So,
But Michael Rasmussen, I'm just so excited. I shared his player card on Twitter, and he's not going to be a 30-goal scorer. He's not going to be a game changer, but he is, without a doubt, an incredibly important middle 6 forward, either at center or winger position on this team. He has a lot to offer, and none of those things are elite caliber things, I believe, but they're all very good. I mean, his edge work has gotten so much better. His speed has gotten so much better. His shot release has gotten so much better. Like you said, Scotty, there were conversations about him not being an NHL caliber player last season. And then from the second half of last year till now, it's been nothing but huge strides forward. Last year, he had a career high in points, 27 points in 80 games played. Right now, Scotty, and that's if these stats are updated. I don't know if these stats have been updated with the goal and the assist today, but according to this, he has 8 goals and 14 assists for 22 points in 44 games. So he is 5 points behind his career high if those stats aren't updated. If they are updated, he is 3 points behind his career high in half as many games.
yeah,
Like that right there just says I have improved.
I agree, and I mean, like we've talked about it a lot this season, but that's a dude who, even if it is like, I'm a solidified 3rd line like guy on a team like that, that's somebody that every team needs, but B, with that size come intangibles too, and so just the improved hockey IQ, the sense, whatever hockey speak you want to use. Just seeing him more comfortable on the ice, I think, is the biggest thing for me.
And I just double checked the NHL app because when someone scores, it puts what number goal of the year it is. So that was his 9th goal and his 15th assist. So it is 24 points in 45 games played. So he is only 3 points behind his career high in half as many games. So just, oh man, it's super vindicating when we were on this train since last season, and to see it come to fruition is just it's so vindicating. One thing goes right for us. It's Michael Rasmussen. But Moritz Seider definitely deserves some props too. And I think let's hit an early break here. I know we're just 9 minutes in, but let's go to a quick break. And when we'll come back, we'll talk about Seider. We'll talk about Husso. There's so much to talk about in this game. But let's first talk to you guys today about FanDuel. If my mouse would stop messing up. Here we go. The NFL playoffs are here. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sportsbook in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout using the same game parlay. all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, let's talk about Moritz Seider. Let's do this first before we talk about the fact that he had 3 assists. He had a brutal turnover that almost cost us the game if Ville Husso hadn't come up big. And we'll talk about Husso as well. But I just want to mention that because I know people are aware that happened. But outside of that pretty bad play, he had a fantastic game. And he had 3 assists in this one, including an assist on the game winner. So he had an assist on 3 of the 4 goals. This is the 13th time in his career that he has had a multi-point game. That ties him. In fact, let me pull it up just so I read this properly because I'm horrible at
read
remembering
this stat, dude.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
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 Yeah, dude. Read this
such a
stat. It's a
smart ass.
beauty. It's a beauty.
Moritz Seider notched his 13th career multi-point game, tied with Steve Chiasson for the second most by a Red Wings defenseman at age 21 or younger, and one shy of Nicholas Lidstrom, 14 games for the most. So he needs one more multi-point game to tie Nicholas Lidstrom for the most multi-point games at 21 or younger. I know it's a bit of a cherry pick stat, but whenever you're in company with Nicholas Lidstrom, I'm gonna say that stat. And he's just, again, statistics came out the other day, advanced analytics, whatever if you're pro advanced analytics, if not, it said that his defensive game has been a positive asset to the Red Wings all season long. It's his offensive game that has suffered some. It has been a little bit of a step back, but ever since again, just to repeat the same thing, ever since pairing with Wallman, it's been 180. He seems to have his swagger back. Now, it's 2 back-to-back games. He's had huge hits as well. Like, it feels like we're seeing more and more of Moritz Seider from last season, and it feels like whatever sophomore slump people were claiming he was having, and hell, we were claiming he was having at some point when he was paired with Ben Sherratt. Like, let's be honest, we were saying it as well.
Sherratt had a pretty nice game tonight.
He did, and we'll talk about that.
He got drilled in the toe too, brutal.
And he came back and continued to play well. But he seems to have gotten his swagger back. He seems to have, just like Raymond, kind of shook off whatever kind of sophomore slump he was going through. So
he's been electric. His father was an absolute treat in this one. I cannot say enough good things about that man. The whole dad's suite just looked like an electric factory.
Yeah.
The ginger ales were flowing, man. They were having a good old time. That was a really fun thing. The dad's trip, and then next year they'll do the mom's trip and whatnot. It's a super cool thing. But Mo has certainly kind of come into his own over the last couple of weeks, and we've talked about it, and it's definitely nice to see. And there is, admittedly, there does seem to be at least a loose connection, if not a direct connection or correlation to the switching of pairings. But regardless, it's nice to see some production from him. And he looked exceptional in this one, including, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the on the game winner, man, he pretty much quarterbacked that whole play.
Oh yeah. After almost giving the whole game up. Which is a perfect transition.
We're not going to sugarcoat anything, but made a mistake and then turned around and quarterbacked the game winner. So
which is a perfect transition into talking about Ville Husso, who, if it were not for him, would not have had a game winner for the Red Wings. He didn't have a perfect game, but also the team gave up a 2-on-1 on a power play for a shorthanded goal. Let me put it to you this way. To sum it up simply for you, he didn't have a great game, but he showed up when you needed him most. And despite the fact that he had 3 goals on 15 shots at one point, he did finish with just a negative .23 goals saved above expected. So less than a quarter of a goal negative.
About expected, yeah.
Which is, considering what the defense I was going to say what the defense was doing in front of him, what the defense wasn't doing in front of him, which was their job. He had a great game, I thought.
Consistently. And I didn't think he was bad. And people I don't know. There's always a big debate whenever like any goal is ever allowed about like, whose fault it was directly. And like usually it's a little bit of everybody. So it's not a pass free like phenomenal game by any stretch, but no, I thought that he was a I mean, again, in overtime, saved the game on that
The
breakaway
second left
save.
in
So
regulation as well.
yeah, absolutely. So definitely had some big moments and some really big saves, and it continues to be, as we've said all season, one of the biggest reasons why the Red Wings even find themselves where they do currently in the standings. Nonetheless, if they were even worse.
Also, fun fact. So Daniela Bruce tweeted out that the Red Wings hit the post in overtime, right? Ben Sherratt's shot. Ben Sherratt's shot.
Ben
Um,
Sherratt's shot.
Ben Sherratt's shot. And so Danielle Bruce is like, I feel like the Red Wings constantly hit the post in overtime. And so, of course, Prashant Iyer to the rescue. He goes, the Red Wings have been credited with 6 missed shots in overtime this season, 4 of which have made contact with the post or the bar.
Nice.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
First of all, to only have 6 missed shots in overtime when they've gone to overtime like 12 times but we know that overtime's all possession. No one shoots the puck.
I think they're going to change it. I think they're going to maybe put it back to 4v4 because like 3v3 is just all like no one shoots. It's just all possession.
I disagree, but I think they'll implement a rule that if you have the puck inside the blue line, you can't just come back out and regroup because that's what slows it down is when teams can't figure out a good shooting or passing lane, they just come back out to the neutral zone. They'll do like when you play half court basketball and you can't like go back and recheck or whatever.
Yeah, maybe it'll be something like the current system will certainly not be implemented. I don't think next year.
Oh, and for the record, for those who are keeping track of Moritz Seider's production, he now has 27 points in 48 games played, where last year he had 50 points in 82. So he's not that far off his pace.
Yeah, and again, especially kind of like we did with Wallman yesterday. Like if you break down. If you prorate the last like 15 games rather than the entire season, I'm sure it's even a higher clip than that.
Yeah,
so.
Ever since he got paired with Wallman for sure.
Yeah.
God, who else do you want? There's so much to talk about. Berger got a goal assisted by
Berger,
Kubelik
man.
and Larkin.
He's the man. Like Berger really is just him. Like
power play goal as well.
What a dog. What a dog for real. Yeah, he looked great. Bert.
Yeah, Bert looked great too. Bert actually was
one
of the analytically wise, Bert had the best Corsi for percentage on the team. He had a Corsi for percentage of 72.2%. That's 8% better, 6% better, sorry, than the next highest, which was Ben Sherratt. But relative, Tyler Bertuzzi doubled up Sherratt, who was the next highest. He had an 18.6% relative Corsi for percentage. That means when he was on the ice, he provided 18% more shot attempts for than against compared to his teammates. I mean, he was shooting the puck like crazy out there. And even, if you want to go to, what about quality was the same way. It was 27% positive for quality score or shooting attempts. I mean, he was all over the place. He was, again, continues to be snake bitten, but he had a really good game. Ben Sherratt had a really good game in this one. I know people were faulting him for that goal, that first goal against, but that was actually like a standard play where he got the puck in the corner and he just bumped past it up to Suter in the circle. And that's a pretty standard play. Suter mishandled it for the turnover. People are blaming Sherratt for a bad pass, but that's standard procedure type pass for a breakout.
On the opposite end of
Suter had the worst game Corsi for percentage
in this one. Yeah, that makes sense.
Suter was one of 2 players that had a below 50% Corsi for percentage in this game. He and Kubelik. And they played on a line together. But yeah.
Makes sense.
Let's see. Okay, we just rapid fired a couple players off there. Who else? Keep it going.
I think Sundqvist.
Yeah, Sundqvist. I mean, he got a goal. I'm
he also just like he's such a body in front of the net that like if he's kind of wreaking havoc in that area, like I'm just going to count it as a good game.
Yeah, but that's where I'm kind of frustrated with him as well because I like Sundqvist and we've had him on the show and I love him to death. But from a play scheme standpoint, I'm not sure I like him too much on the power play. He's a big body, but doesn't really handle the puck really all that well down low in front on the power play. So that's where I miss Soderblom.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
special
like,
team.
who else on the roster are you really going to put in that role?
A skill player.
Okay, so
I
you're going to say forget the body in front of the net
I feel like
altogether.
it's a little outdated,
It's
but
rescheming.
I'm
I mean,
also
fair.
a guy with who spent hundreds of dollars on jerseys behind me. I'm not on
Yeah,
the
I
ice.
mean, but we're also a team who's like 22nd in power play or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're criticizing an elite power play unit or anything. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I'm
I don't
open
mean
to discussion about it.
I don't mean to criticize Sonny either, because obviously we love him.
Well, no, that's
But
more of a
that's just
schematic thing than it
yeah.
is anything else. Yeah.
Anyway, we got to get to another break, but when we come back, let's keep talking about this honestly, because we haven't even talked about the negatives in this game, and there were some. But then we'll do a brief preview on the Islanders game previews, guys. I mean, it's hockey. It's the Red Wings hockey. You know what to expect at this point. So stay tuned
It's great,
to
man.
Lockdown Red
Nice
Wings.
setup.
Segment 3, Lockdown Red Wings podcast.
That'll keep people listening.
Well, we're going to continue talking about the hockey
you
game.
know what to expect.
I mean, we say it every single game. You don't know what to expect with the Red Wings, and that's what you should expect.
Yeah.
There, game preview done. There is one thing you can expect when you're watching the Red Wings, and that is piss poor defense.
Yeah.
And we saw that again in this game on full scope. The Red Wings in this game, Scotty, had a 60% share of Corsi, a 62% share of Fenwick, a 68% share of the shot percentage, 58 scoring chances, 61 high danger, and 67 expected goals for. So literally every schematic or every analytic, they completely dominated.
They also just straight up outshot them by 20 if you just want to do shots on net.
That as well. So, I mean, I did say the shot percentage, but I guess just the hero.
Right, yeah, just like straight up, it was like 42 to 23.
Yeah.
Shots on net. Like,
and yet the score was still 4-3.
And it still went into overtime.
Because the defensive lapses on this team are costly every single time.
Yeah.
For instance, here, let me pull the heat map up for you.
Please do, Brian.
We love our heat maps here.
We really do.
So, as you will notice right here, Scotland, the Red Wings had a crazy good heat map in the offensive zone, like almost the entire offensive zone. But in the defensive zone, they got hammered right out in front of the goal again. That's where 2 of their even strength goals came from. Again, they had a shorthanded goal, so that's not marked here.
Is that say 4.3 attempts?
That is exactly what I was going to say. The dark red area in front of Ville Husso stands for 4.33 plus attempts. That is egregiously bad for a team that had, 25 total shots in the game? So 20% of their shots just about came from right out in front of Ville Husso.
Yeah, you can see the goals there too, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, this is at 5-on-5. So let me scroll up and see how many 5-on-5 shots they had.
Shout out natural
16. Shout out natural stat trick. They had 16 shots against at even strength, or shots for the Canadiens did at even strength, and 4.3 these. So that actually 25% of the 5-on-5 shots the Canadiens had came from right out in front of Ville Husso, 2 of which were for goals.
Right. Inexcusable numbers there.
And 2 of these were defensive lapses that started in your own offensive zone, like bad pinches at the blue line or bad pinches at your own blue line. Why was Joe Veleno the only guy back when one of your defensemen pitched at the blue line and Jordan Osterley was just standing there watching the guy go in, like not hustling to get there for the rebound? There was no rebound, but still, my point stands. It's just defensively, this team is abysmal. And we can't, I guess, happy as we are with this game and as happy as we are that they dominated offensively and they won the game in overtime, and that's exciting. It should never have gone to overtime against this team, as banged up as they are, as bad as they are, even when they're fully healthy.
Well, even like you can say all that. That's more of like game preview stuff, right? Like you can say all that. Like the game was played and we outplayed them. Like it's like significantly. Like,
I mean, look at this.
Like it was like borderline domination for at least like 55. Like there might have been. I think you talked about it before we went on air. Like there was that one like 5-minute kind of stretch in the third period where the Habs had the puck for most of it. But like outside of that, like they truly did like dominate pretty much in every facet, except for allowing insanely high danger, like right in front of the net opportunities. And it's just,
and it
It
cost them.
really is same story, different day at this point.
I mean, it feels like every single time the Red Wings gain the lead, they immediately cough up a breakaway or 2-on-1. And granted, on the 1-2-on-1, and it is worth noting, a huge missed high sticking that would have ended up being a double minor against the Canadiens, which would have been a 5-on-3, one of which being a double minor, right off the faceoff. And no one realized. So Raymond had to get off the ice because he was bleeding. And so the Red Wings ended up going to a 4-on-4 breakout the other way. So the shorthanded goal was kind of a 4-on-4, so to speak, a pseudo 4-4, because the refs missed a blatant high stick right on Raymond off the faceoff that resulted in him bleeding. So that is one of the goals against. But, another one for one where Joe Veleno had to be the last guy back for whatever reason, just a turnover right out in front of the net, just no help for Ville Husso. I mean, all three of those goals, he was just hung out to dry. So
Yeah,
that's why we don't
absolutely. And that,
criticize
again,
Husso.
like we've said that it feels like a million times this season. It's very difficult as like when you're trying to be like an analyst and you're trying to like break down a performance for a goalie when the defense in front of the goalie is so unbelievably bad and or inconsistent. And that's just it's been a wild year trying to figure out exactly like the heights that Husso could reach or like what his value. Well, there is really no arguing what his value is to this team. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him holding it down there, especially with you. I mean, you can look at how bad everybody else who's played in net for the Wings this year has really been on a consistent basis. Like it really has been a rough year defensively, and that's not the first year we've said that.
No, absolutely not, man. But again, in the end, the defense is the defense at this point. I don't know how much can really save it or how it's playing. But they came out, they played a full 60 minutes offensively. We talk about
it's frustrating because they don't. We've said this before too, and like I don't want to broken record it, but like they don't give up like high volume shots. Like they handle the outsides well. They handle like inside the circle pretty well. Like we're not getting like a ton of one timers against us or anything. Like it's not like it's just like no pressure and that we're giving up 40, 50 shots a night. It's just that there is no resistance in front of the net ever. Like whether it's out of position, whether it's not like charging the puck, even like that people just waltz into the point. Like it's brutal to watch on a consistent basis, and that's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of end this conversation on the game on a high note, here's the Corsi 4% heat map, I guess you can call it, graph that showcases basically who controlled the game. And you can see consistently halfway through the first period, the Red Wings completely took over, with the exception of this little bump here in the third period. And if you're following my Twitter feed, I tweeted out, man, the Red Wings looked tired in the third period. It was during this little stretch. And then they immediately took the game back over again until the end of the game. So, I mean, listen, it's frustrating watching this team play defense, without a doubt. But that's 2 wins against bad teams, but they're wins nonetheless. So I'll take them. It's 4 points. And in a stretch where they're struggling to get wins, it would feel really good to beat the New York Islanders tonight by the time you're listening to this and end the official end of the first half of the season. End that on a win streak, which you haven't had since November, because I think most people break it up between pre-All-Star, post-All-Star in terms of halves. So let's go out there and beat the Islanders and end this first half of the season on a 3-game win streak, which would be really nice. And the Islanders are a perfect team to take advantage of. By the way, I want to point out how smooth that transition was to the preview. I'm really proud of myself.
Yeah, it was okay. They're on an the Islanders are on an L6. So like you definitely like 6-game losing streak. You could make it 7 and just have them be on an L7 heading into the All-Star break. They're 1-6-3 in their last 10, and you literally have beaten them this season. So like, let's just maybe do that again.
You have literally beaten them, and you beat them when they were playing much better hockey at that time.
Yeah, you beat them when they were still toward the top of the standings, like before this epic collapse happened.
Yeah, if I'm recalling correctly, the Islanders started the season really poor, rebounded fantastic, and climbed all the way back to the top of the standings. Because I did a crossover with Gil the host of Locked On Islanders on the Locked On NHL show, right before or right after they played, and we talked about how good they were playing. They were on an L4, won a game, and now are on an L6. So in their last 11 games, they're one and I mean,
They're
I don't know how many of
1-6
those.
and 3 in their last 10. Yeah.
1-6-3. Thank you. So
I already
not
said that. Thanks for
not
listening, dude.
not great. I did hear you say it, but
No,
I
it's
wanted to
fine.
include the fact that they've had 10 losses in 11 games instead of 9 losses in 10. It's more it fits the narrative better.
More dramatic, yeah.
It's more dramatic. Points wise, Brock Nelson leads them 43 points in 50 games. Matthew Barzal, who we often compare contracts to in point production, 42 points in 49 games played, comparable to Dylan Larkin. Anders Lee, 33 and 50. And goaltending wise, Ilya Sorokin just carrying that team. Their goaltending situation is what, despite the fact that they're 6th in the division, both Ilya Sorokin and Simon Varlamov are having fantastic seasons. And I know that it's going to be, if Bruins keep playing this way, it's going to be Linus Ullmark all the way for Vezina. But damn, if Ilya Sorokin doesn't deserve to be a finalist.
Conversation for sure.
Well, to have a 922 save percentage and a goals against of less than 2.5 on a team that is losing as badly as the Islanders are right now, that's incredible.
I mean, if it's actually pretty fascinating if you just look at like the Islanders' offensive and defensive numbers. Like, if you just look at really, really simple stuff, like the Islanders are 25th in the league in goals scored a game, okay, but they're 8th in goals against. Their power play is last. It's 32nd in the NHL, but they're 5th in the penalty kill, right? Like, it's just they don't give up goals because they have a great goaltending situation, and their offense, especially even more so lately, has been struggling.
But that's exactly the brand of hockey. If anyone's followed the Islanders over the last few years, that's exactly the brand of hockey.
Ever since Tavares left, that's just been like their thing.
Yeah, that's what Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz built this team to do. I know now Lambert's behind the bench as the head coach.
Right. They said we don't have the star power offense to really like hang anymore. Let's just make this a defensive kind of goaltending powerhouse.
And I mean, if you look at their losses in this stretch, I mean, 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, 3-1, 2-1. 4-2, like most of them are 2 less.
That's brutal, dude.
Yeah, most of them.
That many 1-goal losses is tough to stomach, man.
They play great defense with great goaltending, but can't score goals. Yeah. I mean, that's their brand of hockey. And so when the defense doesn't allow goals at all, they win those games. And Sorokin leads the league in goals saved above expected with 31.31. Followed by UC Saros. I mean, there's so many great goalies this year. Linus Ullmark, Connor Hellebuck, UC Saros, Jake Ottinger, of course, Vasilevsky. It's going to be
Ottinger's such a dog, dude. You want to talk about somebody who's got that dog in him. Jake Ottinger is a dog.
But this is a team this is what you would call the movable object versus the penetrable force. Because the Red Wings offense stinks, or the Red Wings, the Islanders offense stinks, but the Red Wings defense stinks. Sorry, I'm struggling. This is what I get for trying to do an analogy. But the Red Wings defense stinks, but the Islanders offense blows as well. So it's like, who is gonna collapse first? Right. Red Wings offense can score goals, but
you're lining up the bad things.
Yeah. So it's like, what's gonna cave first? But I have faith. Haven't said that in a while. Let's make this a W3. Let's look real quick at the odds if they're out yet for tomorrow's game. I think
we're dogs. I mean, we're on the road, but
I wouldn't be surprised. They play great defense and we don't.
Yeah, but L6. They're at home, so fine.
That's usually the factor. The Red Wings are.
I think they still have more points than us too.
Yeah,
it's close at least.
They're still in the fight for the wild card. They're still up there.
Time. They're like a 500 team.
The Wings are still the Wings are still in the fight for the wild card too, but they have definitely a tougher road, especially with as bad as their strength of schedule is.
We'll talk about that later this week or next week, maybe. I think Dom from The Athletic did it. The Wings have the hardest strength of schedule in the NHL for the rest of in the second half of the year.
Yeah, that's great. But yeah, they're 138 dogs on the money line. Islanders 170 favorites. Who'd you take on the money line there?
I mean the money would the play I think would be to take the Wings because of all the reasons we just laid out. This is a team on an L6 and even aside from their win 7 games ago, even before that they were losing 2. So like that would probably tell you to take the plus money on the Wings, but I don't know. This is such an unpredictable team. I'm done trying to guess what the Wings are going to be on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, I think on money line, I know I just said I had faith in the Wings, but on money line, I probably would take the Islanders just because it feels like a trap game to me. It just has that feeling. A team that's on an L6 and has only one win in the last 11 games. It feels like it's a recipe. But I do think that the Red Wings plus 1.5 goals. I think that with the minus 192 odds is probably the play there. I think it's going to be a low scoring game.
I mean,
Game.
minus 192.
In fact,
obviously, that's
holy crap,
you're
Scotty.
making less units there, but yeah.
The over under
is it like 5.5?
It's 5.5.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
When is the last
I'll take
time you
the
saw
over because hockey, but that 5.5 is justified.
Dude, I'm taking under. I'm thinking 3-1 game.
Wow, I love it.
I did, and they're both minus 110 odds. Like so,
Yeah,
there's no
Steven,
favorite here.
Steven, yeah.
But so I'm taking plus 1.5 Wings, plus goal and a half for the Wings, but money line Islanders, and then under 5.5.
Love it.
So,
boom.
We'll be back on Monday with a game recap, and then we'll launch into All-Star break with a plethora of content. We'll do half-season grades. We'll talk to some guests, and amongst other things, we'll figure out when we get there. Stay tuned. Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We ball. God, aren't you guys glad you listen to a podcast that totally plans out weeks in advance? Same time.
Man, if the trains don't do it, we don't do it. Let's ride.
Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.